everyone and welcome back to Everything EastEnders. I know it's been a while since I've been here and I want to let you know that I'm decided to take the channel in a kind of different direction. So I want to talk a bit more kind of academically about the show or theoretically and talk about its roots and so forth, do character studies and things like that. But I also want to talk about the news of the show, still going to do reaction videos and all that kind of stuff. So don't worry, that fun stuff is still going to be there, but I just want to talk a bit more seriously about the show and its impact, really. Talking of, still talking about the news and things like that comes out with the show, Graham is returning to the show. Freddie's father, Graham Foster, is returning. It's absolutely huge news. I did not see this coming, to be perfectly honest, and I think it's wonderful that the show is tapping into its history like this. It needs to do more of this, bringing back characters. I'll get into this a little bit later. Like I said, I'm doing character studies. This isn't going to be so much as a character study of Freddie, but just more an overview. I don't think he's been in the show long enough as an adult, or even as a child, for that depth of analysis. So I'm just going to provide a brief overview of the character, a bit of context, and yeah, my thoughts on the character, the actor, and the future, what this storyline means. So let's get into it. First things first, Little Mo was one of the Slater sisters and is the mother of Freddie, obviously. And she was happily married to Billy Mitchell, and the writers decided a year of happy marriage was too much. So they decided to introduce Graham Foster, who groomed Little Mo into a friendship and gained her trust as a friend, to the point where she didn't really think much of it when he stayed behind one night at the Vic after last orders and everyone had left. And he proceeded to take advantage of this trust and attack her. This attack resulted in a pregnancy, obviously Freddie. She faced immense pressure from family to not continue the pregnancy. Her marriage with Billy suffered terribly. When she felt so much that she was doing the wrong thing by her family, she went to have the pregnancy ended. Billy was the one who came and convinced her not to. He said, "I can't stay with you, but you can't do this. I would stay with you if you did this, but I know you don't want to do this." Honestly, I think Billy loved Little Mo more than he loved Honey. Just saying. Little Mo left. She gave birth to Freddie off screen. She returned with baby Freddie in tow for Graham's trial. Now, it was at the trial that it was revealed to Graham that he had fathered Freddie, and he expressed interest in wanting to be a part of Freddie's life at the trial, although I think this was more a way of antagonizing the Slater family and Billy. However, it was then Graham's mother who essentially won the trial by letting it slip to Little Mo and the prosecution that Graham had children from a previous marriage who he had very little contact with. Even though he had access, he had very little contact and made very little effort to be in their lives. So that, on a side note, Freddie has siblings. I think this is something the storyline could build on. Freddie and Little Mo came back. The marriage between Billy and Little Mo, they tried, but it didn't work, in large part thanks to Alfie. Thanks, Alfie. Decided to leave Walford on her own with Freddie, rather than leaving with the lovely doctor who had proposed to her, who is actually, I found out just the other month, is actually Lucifer. So this was the last we saw of Little Mo and Freddie in 2006. And then in 2022, Casey Ainsworth, the actress who played Little Mo, expressed her absolute delight at the casting of Bobby Brazier as Freddie Slater. And I have to say, after a year of seeing him in this role, I wholeheartedly agree with her enthusiasm over this casting. I think he's brought great energy to the role, and I think he really is believable as Little Mo's son. And I'll explain that. During her time in EastEnders, the character of Little Mo underwent quite a transformation. However, at the core of her character, she was always a bubbly, positive, and happy person. And I think this really comes through in the character of Freddie Slater, and you can really tell that is who he was raised by. I would really love to see Casey Ainsworth back in the role of Little Mo, and I'll talk about it a bit later, but I think especially for this storyline, I think it would be really, really great to have her back. She has great connections to the show still, and you know, in terms of characters and storylines and all of that. So I think, and she's a fantastic actress, so I think it would be great to have her back. Moving back to Freddie. Freddie's initial storyline was marked by him believing that Billy Mitchell was his father, and so seeking out Billy. But then it was eventually, Billy sort of kept up the pretense at first, but then he eventually revealed to him that he was not his father. And the storyline kind of was subdued for a while, and Kat at the time was adamant that Little Mo be the one to tell Freddie the truth about his father. She kept saying, you need to talk to your mum. And now recently that Freddie has been thinking about his father, especially after the party where he was longingly looking at the relationship that Alfie had with his son. This has led to him asking Kat about his father, and a complete 180 in Kat's attitude towards what he should do.
So who is he? Who is my real dad?
But you need to speak to your mum. Pick up the phone and ask yourself if you don't believe me.
You know what, I will. Fine.
All right. But you'll be causing her a whole load of pain. And mark my words, she won't thank you for it. And neither will I.
I mean, I understand maybe the circumstances were different then, but yeah, he does have a right to know. And it would probably not have resulted in what has happened now, because then Tommy has overheard the adults talking and mentioning the name, and he's given that name straight to Freddie, who's looked it up. Apparently there's only one Graham Foster in the UK, because he was able to find him like straight away. Apparently he's a team member at some car dealership or something like that. And it ended on that. It ended on Freddie excited that we know he's found his father because it's the same actor. Who is the actor who played Graham Foster? Yeah, but he did a good job at the time of us hating him. So what does this mean? Now, this could potentially be a very good storyline for EastEnders. You know, this kind of family drama is exactly what EastEnders does best. But in recent years, we've seen them slipping. Now, this isn't to say that EastEnders doesn't have its fair share of emotional storylines that they're doing well. But they've also had moments where it's been super cringe and embarrassing, like this.
Get off me! What?
And times where they've tanked storylines like this. I'll get into that particular storyline in a whole separate video, but you see where I'm going here. This is just what I'm concerned about. Like Kat said, this will bring up a lot of trauma for Little Mo. So that's why I think it's important that the actress, even if it's briefly, even if it's just for this storyline, I think she should come back. And I think that will go a long way towards really fleshing out the storyline and fleshing out the issue as well. Because it's not just, you know, about Freddie and his father, it's also about what happened to Little Mo. It seems that Graham has done quite well for himself. He's working at this fancy car dealership, and so I don't know if this will tie in with EastEnders' tradition of making, you know, they tend to have villains as middle upper class characters. Not complaining, just pointing it out. So maybe we see Graham as a kind of James Wilmot Brown-esque sort of character. Interesting, and it's interesting to see what will happen, but I don't see the character having that much longevity on the show. And I think this is incredibly important for Freddie as a character, especially if I hope they plan on having Freddie as a long-running character on the show. I hope that this is a part of his character arc and goes towards the long-term development of his character. And this will really put Bobby's acting skills to the test. He's not to say that he's, you know, coasted it so far. It's been mostly comedic scenes, and he's shown he can do the more serious stuff as well. But this is a lot darker than anything his character's really come across before. So this will be really interesting to see, and I'm sure that Bobby will rise to the test. I'm sure this will be really significant in his long-term character arc, like I said. At least that's how I hope they do it. As we know, EastEnders has a habit of sensationalizing storylines recently, most notably the Graham and Chantel domestic violence storyline. Chantel's last episode, which in my opinion was perhaps the best episode of the storyline, should have been kept as almost like a pre-climax to the overall conclusion and downfall of Graham's character. Instead, it went on to become this sensationalized serial killer storyline. I mean, it would have been more realistic to show him joining the police force. Just saying. Graham could potentially be the dead body that we see in the Christmas flash forward thing that we saw. And again, I know I keep saying this, but I want to do a video on that particular storyline as well. And I know I just said that I don't want them to sensationalize it, but when I discuss that episode, you'll probably see through my analysis that how potentially it won't be sensationalized, although it could be. I don't know if I've said this before, but I like that the show is tapping into its history like this. This is what we need to see. This is, again, what the show does best, and is really the core of the show. Kitchen sink drama, long-term family relationships and dramas and all of that, usually centered around a matriarch. And at the moment, Kat is filling that role of matriarch for Freddie. But I think really little Mo, like I said, needs to come back for this. Okay, so those are my thoughts on Graham's return. I've kind of rushed this video. I just wanted to get it out before his character comes back. Let me know what you guys think. You know, what's your thoughts on this storyline? Do you think Casey will come back? And yeah, let me know what you think. And as always, please like, subscribe. Thank you for watching.